Hey, this is Hayden Gillum. Thanks for watching MotoAmerica on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe.
On day one of the new MotoAmerica season, the defending champ was out before it started, leaving an opening for the newest title contender to rise to the top of the rankings. What happens on day two? We find out right now. You're locked into the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship, our first round of 10 for 2022. MotoAmerica Superbikes at Texas, part of the Auto Parts for Less MotoAmerica Superbike Championship. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, it's day two here of the Medallia Superbike class, and yesterday it was an awesome race, and we had a surprise winner.
I don't know if we had a surprise winner. We had a guy that we knew would be battling for the championship, but Jake Gagne not starting the race was a real bummer for all of us, I think. But we'll get back to that in a minute as you see him here pulling into the pits, Greg, and he took it really with a grain of salt. He was very positive about it, knows his team's going to put a bike underneath him that he'll be able to win. But at the start yesterday, Matthew Scholtz got the jump on the field. Danilo Petrucci there, you see on the number 9 on the inside. If you watch on the exit of this turn here at the top of turn 1, his race almost came to an abrupt end. You can see him get shot up out of the seat. Matthew Scholtz would lead the first few laps while Petrucci was making his way through the field. He's going to go up underneath PJ Jacobsen here as they went up into turn number 1 on maybe the second or third lap there, probably second lap. Then he was going to make quick work of Cam Peterson as he goes up underneath him into turn 11, and then all eyes forward as he was trying to run down the number 11 of the Westby Racing rider Matthew Scholtz. Matt would lead this race until the Ducati drafted by him down the back straightaway. As they drafted and went through down into turn 12, you see these guys trying to grab a bunch of gears, get that bike all the way slowed down into another very slow corner here at COTA. From that point on, Greg, he kind of was able to run in those high 209 range lap times. Scholtz would take certain shots at him. The gap would kind of get bigger. Scholtz would run a couple fast laps and try to close the gap down. The battle for fourth between Hector Barbera and his teammate PJ Jacobsen along with Jake Lewis would go down to the line. But Danilo Petrucci, in his debut ride here in the MotoAmerica Championship, goes on and wins his first race with Matthew Scholtz in close second.
Taking a look at our Suzuki Inside the Numbers, you can see the margin of victory there. And the real concerning thing, of course, for Cameron Peterson is he doesn't want to finish 13 seconds behind the race leader. And the question is really, Jason, as we talk about it, what kind of adjustments can be made. But I'll tell you what, we had a chance to listen in on Danilo Petrucci's post-race press conference, and he told us about his day and what's to come.
For me to be real, the target was stand on the podium because these guys and also Jake is they are really fast, and especially it's since not January 2022, but since January 21 that I'm racing. I'm happy, and I'm not physically fit. I was not thinking to push too much, but when I tried to really push, my rear tire was really unstable, and we have just a pair of days of testing in Europe. So for me, the bike is completely new, and it doesn't fit so much with the Dunlop tire that are really good, but they need a proper setup. But anyway, for sure, I'm really happy to be here racing with these guys. The atmosphere is really nice. It's good, and coming to MotoAmerica, I think is one of the best choices I ever made.
Well, Jason, making changes overnight is important, but we didn't have a warm-up session today, but there is some concessions.
Yeah, they're going to give these guys a little 10-minute warm-up where they're going to go around the track. They got to come down pit lane at 40 mile an hour, pit lane speed limiter, but they're going to get a chance to see, and it's a big advantage for Jake Gagne and that attack team because they might have gone into this race without even knowing if their bike would run, so this is really going to help them.
So they'll be able to come into pit lane and decide if those changes work. If not, back him out. But for Jake Gagne, can he start this race and can he score some points? He doesn't want to be 50 down by the end of the day. Right back at Circuit of the Americas. A spectacular racetrack as we have the Medallia Superbike, race number 2 underway. Let's take a look at Circuit of the Americas, a 3.427 mile long road course. It's got a nice blend of 11 lefts, 9 rights. It does go counterclockwise in direction, and it's got a lot of elevation, 130 feet in total. Well, riders are on the grid and ready to roll, so let's get down to Hannah Lopa, who has our first conversation on her grid walk. Hannah?
Greg, it's certainly a different kickoff to race day with no warm-up session. Matt, second place in yesterday's race. Were there any changes that your team was willing to risk despite not knowing how they might shake out during this race with no warm-up today in the hope of getting you one step higher on the podium?
Yeah, I mean, we made a couple really small changes, but obviously, like you said, there was no warm-up session, so we couldn't do anything big. But I feel like we had a decent pace yesterday, so I just hope we try to be a part of the battle up front today.
Best of luck out there. Thanks, Matt.
And Cameron Peterson rounded out our top 3 finishers yesterday with your first podium of the 2022 season. But you said that you rode so bad, you didn't even go back and watch it. What have you cleaned up overnight mentally to get ready for race 2?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday's race was pretty tough. Around laps 4 or 5, I actually felt pretty good, and I felt like I closed the gap on the guys in front of me, and then unfortunately just made a mistake going into turn 1 and lost that gap, and then riding around by myself for the whole race wasn't fun. So just got to minimize mistakes. We made some changes to the bike. It felt pretty good in those 2 laps. So I just want to be closer to the gap and closer to these guys up front and challenge them for a win. So looking forward to it.
It was just over 13 seconds that gap was in race number 1. Let's see what they can close it up to today, Greg.
Yeah, certainly. And, for Cameron Peterson, he doesn't want to be that far back. But what's this guy got going on? His bike looks like it's running, and he's awfully fast. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Medallia Superbike coverage is sponsored by AutoPartsForLess.com. Why pay more when you can get it for less? By Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
A great day for racing, a little windy for some folks, but Medallia Superbike race number 2, our first round of the championship, getting ready to get underway. And Jason Pridmore, even though he didn't start the race yesterday, Gagne still has pole.
He does. Matthew Scholtz and Petrucci are next to him. Cam Peterson, Hector Barbera, and PJ Jacobsen. Jake Lewis, Escalante, Gillum, Dave Anthony, Michael Gilbert, and Corey Alexander will round out row number 4. Back to Jeff May, Travis Wyman, and Ashton Yates. Gerardo is actually a withdrawal from this. Bobier and Jeremy Coffey, row 6. Hunter Dunham, Max Flinders, Danilo Lewis also isn't going to be out there, I don't think, G-Dub.
Correct.
Jeff Perk, Kuna, and Shakespeare on row 8. A little further back, Zaragoza and Sean Thomas round out the grid. Now, I think the biggest difference between yesterday and today, you can see those canopies blowing around, Greg. The wind, it was a tremendous headwind going up that hill to turn 1 about an hour and a half ago when I was out there. It was blowing pretty hard. So it'll be interesting to see the lap times and see if that slows these guys down at all.
Talking to Matthew Scholtz, the wind yesterday was a little tricky for him as he would haul it off into turn number 11, which is the left-hander that leads you onto the front straightaway. Jay, he missed his brake marker 4 times in a row the first 4 laps because the wind was blowing from behind. So the 10-minute session they had to warm up, critical to really understand not only any changes on your bike, but also the wind.
I'm just looking to see where Gagne is. Is he on the front? I didn't see him on the front row, Greg. So I saw Cam. There he is.
All right,
so he is there.
It's time to get going. 14 laps scheduled for this one. Medallia Superbike race number 2. You're going to see those lights go off, and we're going to be racing. The number 1 plate gets a decent launch. Petrucci, not so much. He's going to be relegated back to 4th for the moment, but is it going to be the 45 who gets the whole shot? No, up the inside, it looked like it was one of the titles. PJ Jacobsen had it for a second.
Yeah, it's hard to tell those guys apart. Is it Cam Peterson there with Matthew Scholtz right behind him? Better start today for Petrucci. He's there in 3rd, and then it looks like Cam, or PJ, and then Gagne.
So sorting itself out. No big moment for Petrucci in turn number 2 as he learned what the Dunlops are like on that first lap. Oh, is it going to be a bit for the lead? No.
He thought about it, didn't he? Thought about taking a shot at the inside there as they were going into the turn 7-8 area. Now they're going to come up over the top of this hill. This turns 9. This is a fast turn 10 down here to a first real hard braking of this lap. Gagne just definitely did not get the start he wants. Here comes Petrucci having to go. He's not going to be able to make it.
All right, so fresh and lean progressive Yamahas. Cameron Peterson leading the way. from his fellow countryman from South Africa, Matthew Scholtz on the Westby Racing number 11. And then there's the Warhorse HSBK Ducati New York entrant, number 9, Petrucci, who's using the power of that Ducati.
Somebody's bike is smoking, Greg.
Yeah, someone's
It looks
bike
like somebody's bike was smoking there, and I thought it was PJ Jacobson's. I believe PJ just pulled off there. Yeah, he's got a problem. You could see that, and you could see Gagne was in the draft, and he wasn't quite sure if he should be there or not. PJ just has a look behind him. He's going to see a lot of smoke. That bike's lost power.
All right, so teething issues for the Tytler Cycles entry. So PJ looks like he's going to be out. Cameron Peterson still leading the way now from Petrucci. Takes over second spot, looking for his second win. Obviously early days, working lap 1 of 14. The question is, where is the number 1 plate? So for PJ, unfortunate, but you know, he'll be back.
You know, this team is brand new. These guys have had a really good weekend. That's the first little problem that we've seen. Petrucci goes up underneath Cam Peterson as they get ready to complete lap 1 here. He's going to have all 3 of those Yamahas behind him now. Gagne, first lap really racing, and it's his first lap, Greg, since Friday afternoon. So it's going to take him a couple laps, and like Raj said in our pre-show, he doesn't have that data to look at overnight. So a little bit of a slow start for Gagne, as is to be expected, but the guy out front is not worried about that. You can see that gap already starting to stretch out a little bit on the number 9.
Danilo Petrucci, here from MotoGP after retiring last year, gets to visit with all of his paddock family this weekend on a racetrack he's very familiar with. Raced plenty of MotoGP races here. 2 MotoGP race credit to his credit. Oh, and there's Cameron Peterson trying to make the most on acceleration from that Dunlop tire.
Well, Matthew snuck up underneath him. He saw that lap ago there. We saw him try the same exact move. This time Matthew made it work. Ran it a little bit wide. Cam had thoughts about trying to get back by him. Now the number 1 has closed back up a little bit on the 2nd and 3rd place bikes. So Gagne just getting his feet underneath him here on this first lap and a half, and he's just hoping that he doesn't, if he does get himself up to 2nd, he doesn't have to chase Petrucci down from too far away. Jamie?
For Jake Gagne, you know, missing all of that track time. Okay, he knows the racetrack, but where it really hurt him was the fact that they didn't know what direction they were going to go in with the Dunlop tires yet. So they really had to work with Cameron Peterson and talk to his team and figure out which direction to go there. They did decide to go on the exact same tires that Cameron raced on yesterday. So they figured that out. In terms of the bike, though, it is a different bike than what he rode in the first qualifying session on Friday. They went ahead, brought out the spare. They couldn't take any more chances, was what they said. They've already started the season off at a deficit, and they don't want to continue.
And Jason, here in MotoAmerica, the Medallia Superbike class, it's a 1-bike rule. So you're only allowed to go through technical inspection with 1 bike, but a lot of these teams do have a spare chassis, rolling chassis, ready to roll, but you have to go in there and basically say to tech, we're pulling this one out of service and putting this one back. So Jay, it's a 2nd bike, and they can feel different bike to bike, can't they?
Yeah, I talked to Stamboli this morning. They had some problems synchronizing the engine with the electronics, and they knew that they weren't going to have a warm-up day today, so they just started swapping parts over from the spare bike to try to get a bike that would at least run, a bike that they knew would be capable of getting Gagne out onto the grid. Now, talking about all this, you can see he and Cam Peterson have fallen behind. I am super impressed with Matthew Scholtz as he's taken the fight to Petrucci. 2:09.5 for the first real flying lap around the track. 2:09.8 for Matthew Scholtz, only half a second back. Go back a little bit further, we're looking at Escalante here. Richie right now in 6th with his teammate just behind.
All right, so we're at the part of the track where Matthew Scholtz told me that he was quicker than Petrucci in yesterday's race, and that is the section where we have a lot of transitions, this 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to turn number 11, and you can see that Scholtz is able to reel Petrucci in those high corner speed sections. But as we get to turn 11, and there goes a move up to 3rd place. So Gagne on the move. He'll take over 3rd for the moment. Onto the back straightaway, the long drag race. This is where the Ducati really stretches its legs and is able to hit some peak top speeds close to 190 miles per hour. 188.5 registered on our timing and scoring screen.
Yeah, and you compare it, he's about 3 miles an hour faster than that of Scholtz. And Scholtz was in the draft. Cam Peterson, 188. Jake Gagne, 188. So now we're going to have a look here, Greg. Last time through, Cam Peterson was about 1.7 behind the leader, Petrucci. But, again, super impressed with Matt Scholtz being able to go forward. So hopefully we'll be able to see if those changes that the Westby team made overnight are going to be beneficial.
What are you saying, Hannah?
Greg, in regards to Cameron Peterson and the changes that they made, Cam said he's pretty comfortable with the chassis as far as things are for right now. Mostly they made electronic changes. Yesterday, they were really trying to come up with a strategy to focus on tire degradation. He was feeling a little bit of chatter in that front. He would have been content with a third place finish, but truly, he was just hoping for a better result if it hadn't been so far back. So he thinks he has the pace today. He just needs to click off more consistent lap times. I'm sure having his teammate Jake Gagne in the mix definitely shakes things up a little bit as far as his strategy is concerned.
It definitely does, and you know, these two have tested together in the off-season, and Gagne, although Jason, looking at our timing screens, a 2:10 flat, that's not going to get it done. Matthew Scholtz just went fastest lap of the race at a 2:09.2. So he took a couple of tenths out of Petrucci, who's at the fastest lap of his race at a 9:4. But overall, they lost 8/10 of a second in that last time by. So the battle for third continues to rage on with these fresh and lean progressive Yamahas. But back up front we go, and Matthew Scholtz is all over the tailpipe of Petrucci.
And this is going to be a really good time for Matthew to just be able to kind of sit there and see what Petrucci's doing. If he keeps showing, if Petrucci keeps showing +0 on his pit board, he's going to be like, wow, I didn't get away. Yesterday at this time, Petrucci had already run a 2:08.6, and Scholtz has been
nice
going
big
up
lunge
underneath him there in turn 11. 2:08.6 yesterday on Petrucci's second or third lap. So when you look at this 2:09.2 that Matthew Scholtz just did, he is trying to up the pace.
Great lunge by Matthew Scholtz to move Petrucci out of the way, but then again, here comes Ducati horsepower. Is Scholtz gonna send it into turn number 11? He does, he gets position, and he's able to get the bike turned, but can he get a drive? So, once again, Matthew Scholtz takes over the lead. Petrucci looking for a tighter line. Jason, in talking with Scholtz this morning, I asked him about line choice. And I said, look, riding around with this Ducati, it looked like Petrucci was able to take some tighter lines. Is that bothersome for you? And he said, no. My whole goal isn't necessarily the line mid-corner. It's about how do I get this motorcycle upright to maximize the drive on the Yamaha R1.
Well, we've known for a while with Matthew, he's very self-critical on the way he gets into corners. Sometimes he can be a little bit impatient, and he uses a ton of brake to get into the turn, but what it hurts him is that mid-corner to exit. He's not getting to the throttle quick enough. He's not able to get the power to the ground early enough. We heard him say that yesterday as well, that it has been a talking point that he has been continuing to work on even through testing. And you know, it's nice to have that in your back pocket of being able to get into corners deeper, as these guys are 2:09, and our champ Jake Gagne back there is in the 9s as well now. So for Scholtz, there's a riding change that he's got to try to figure out, and it's good to see that he's working on that.
Here we go into this section where Scholtz is quicker than Petrucci. As we take a look back at the number 1 plate. Battling it out with his teammate Cameron Peterson. So, Jake Gagne, a 2:09.8, and he drugged Peterson up to a 2:09.7.
And to your words there, Greg, look at Matthew. He is definitely a little bit quicker as he's pulled away. I know it's only 5 or 6 bike lengths, but you can see that from the entry to those S's, Matthew's able to get that R1 through there a little bit more tidy than Petrucci's Ducati in that lap specifically. Now, as tire wear starts to go off, it'll be interesting to see if he is still able to attack those corners the way he is. The other thing is if you notice, see how sideways he's getting? That's going to hurt drive a little bit there as well, and that Ducati should be able to draft by this lap just based off of that slide.
Plus, Petrucci gets a shot at what Matthew Scholtz is doing through that S section, and the question becomes for the number 9, can he match that pace now that he understands the line? So, a lot of wheel spin and a big loss of drive for Scholtz allows that Ducati to use its horsepower to get by on the back straightaway.
Yeah, and Petrucci's going to see that. You know, when you see a guy's bike in front of you, you know that guy's going 10 tenths right now just to stay in that spot. Petrucci gets on through, and now he's going to just try to lay those lap times down, Jamie.
We heard in that press conference soundbite earlier in the show about Petrucci talking about his physical abilities, and he went on in conversation back in the paddock earlier to compare himself to Matthew Scholtz, and he actually said, you know, Scholtz is young, he's really fit. He said, I'm not as young and I'm nowhere near as fit. And he said that in the race yesterday, if Scholtz had been there to actually battle with him, he didn't feel like he was in a position physically to battle back. So as you watch these two go back and forth, remember all of the pain and the injury that Petrucci is dealing with in this first round.
Jimmy, that's a great report, but I'll tell you right now, the bike that Petrucci has underneath him right now just looks like it might be working ever so slightly a little bit better as we see another pass for the lead. These guys are going back and forth. Matthew is making Petrucci uncomfortable. That's what he wants to do right now. And when it comes to a straight up fight, oh, Petrucci's pulling a tear off. That's all that was. You know, when it comes to a straight up fight, Matthew is definitely wanting to disrupt the flow of what that Ducati's capable of. And Greg, when you see what we have seen so far, look at how much he's up behind him here.
Yeah.
Again, very fast through here is Matthew.
Now you can see that Matthew Scholtz needed a little bit more, or had a little bit more in terms of that corner speed. Hannah?
Greg, in talking to Matthew Scholtz, he said throughout most of the races, he seems to maintain the same pace throughout the race. You know, he's very even-keeled. He said maybe he can take some chances, be a little bit more aggressive in the beginning on the tire, and there's 2/3 of the race.
Oh, sorry, Hannah. Sorry, Hannah. What a lunge by Scholtz to take over the lead, heading on to turn number 11. And boy, Jason, what a risky move. But Hannah, go ahead, continue what you were saying.
Well, it's exactly what I was saying. He planned to be a little more aggressive this first part of the race, you know, despite the tire degradation, rely on the fact that he knows he can always be strong toward the end of the race.
Jason, he's got a lot of confidence in the front end right now, does Scholtz, to take those chances.
He has a lot of confidence, but look what it's doing. It's allowing those two attack bikes to get closer and closer. Jake Gagne is going, Matthew, please just keep doing that a couple more times, and we're going to be right in tow. I mean, right now, Gagne can sniff the back end of these guys, and Cam Peterson going with him as well. 209.8s for the top three guys last time, and a 210 flat for this man here on the 45, Cam Peterson. So Cam Peterson is really going to school right now with his teammate, isn't he? They've been testing a lot out in California, and in talking to Cam, he's like, man, at the track they've been testing at Buttonwillow Raceway, he says Jake's just got this little bit of an edge. So if you look here, he has just towed himself right up with Gagne, and any more interaction with what, still 8 laps to go between these two guys here, and those two attack bikes are going to be up there with the leaders.
Scholtz had to look over his shoulder, and you just get the feeling that they are just destroying these rear Dunlop tires. They're working them really hard. Another pass for the lead, and Scholtz gets right back at it, but Petrucci's got the line. And Petrucci knows, Jay, from Scholtz leading through this section, he needs to lead through these S's because it is so one line here, because it's where Scholtz has the largest advantage. As we look at Matthew Scholtz, he's going to get right back onto the rear tires. Right there, you can see the body attitude.
Yeah, and he might even try in this next left if he gets the shot. He didn't get it that time, and you can see Petrucci was almost guarding against it. But Matthew is so good when they go through this right and then up over the top of this hill to the left. It shoots them back down this steep hill. Very technical spot. The closer you get to this curbing here, the less bumpy it is. And Matthew has taken a number of shots down here at the bottom. This time he's a little bit too far back. And look at Petrucci. It's caused him to change his line, get the bike slowed as much as he can so that he can take advantage of his exit.
It didn't sacrifice the drive from the Ducati at all. And that is just pure racecraft. We are watching a rider in Petrucci who is just showing us a clinic on how racecraft works. He got a look at it one lap at Scholtz, and he started to figure him out. Now it's going to be on Scholtz to stay in tow, because Scholtz is really going to have to. The one thing that was interesting about Scholtz, and he was talking about how his front tire was worn out at the end of the race, and so we're in that part with 8 laps to go that it might be a little bit of a factor.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that as they see a good slow-mo shot here through turn 10. The thing is that what we saw just now is it looks like Petrucci's starting to just edge away. He was able to use that line at the end of the back straightaway, or going into the back straightaway, Greg, like you said, get that drive out, and look at that small gap. And look what it's done also. It's created a gap between the second place guy and these guys, and Cam almost looks like he's pushing Gagne again.
Jake Gagne, who missed yesterday's race, missed a couple of sessions leading up to the race as well. It's his first run in race competition. Doesn't quite have the magic underneath him that we expected him to have after setting pole, after only being on the racetrack for a warm-up session on Friday and then qualifier number 1. And Cameron Peterson was in there a little bit too deep. Had to avoid his teammate. So these two fresh and lean progressive Yamahas trying to close the gap on the Westby Racing Yamaha, but Petrucci goes 2:09.2, his personal best after setting the fastest sector 3 times. So the number 9 on that Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York entrant is starting to pull the pin, Jay.
Yeah, he is. And you remember yesterday, Greg, I said 2:08.6 was the number that he did on the second lap. Didn't get the greatest of starts yesterday. He had to go through a few guys to get there, but he did it at 8.6. I don't know if we'll see them actually get back down to that, even though he's gone the fastest first split of the race so far for him. We'll see when he gets to the second sector here. The problem is, and you can see Scholtz's bike really getting out of shape there as he winds the power onto the ground. And but yeah, I don't think I think 2:09.2. They might get a 1 or a 0 in there, but I think that's about as fast as they're going to go, strictly because of that wind.
So Danilo Petrucci continues to lead the way now. His gap is extended to about a second over Matthew Scholtz, who we saw was right there until 2 times ago. A run onto the front straightaway and a line choice gives us an indication that maybe that front tire is starting to wear on Scholtz.
Yeah. And for Gagne, he's got to get some points, doesn't he?
That's
got to get this campaign kicked off. Don't do anything silly. He's not gonna. If he can somehow catch up to the back of Matthew and score himself 20, that would be good. There's still some 7 laps to go, and you know, it's just right now. This guy right here, like you said, pulled the pin here as they got into turn 11. Got out of that corner really well, and now he's starting to pull away.
Another Sector 3 fastest time for Petrucci. Jamie?
Well, you mentioned the front tire on Matthew Scholtz's bike, and one interesting note to look at is Danilo Petrucci. He went with a medium front tire, a soft at the rear, whereas Matthew Scholtz is a soft at the front and at the back, just like most of the field. In fact, Danilo Petrucci is the only rider at the front of the pack that chose that medium, so they clearly liked what they saw yesterday. It's the same tire choices that they made then, but it's going to help them last to the end.
Yeah, not just that, it's about feeling as well, and the medium tire, I'm doing that in air quotes, Jays, because that is the hardest option that Dunlop brought to Circuit of the Americas. So is the extra soft, the soft, and that medium. So for a lot of riders, it doesn't give them the feel that they need, but for Petrucci, it's certainly working.
Well, the durability is obviously what he's looking for, and the way this bike is handling, like I said in yesterday's telecast, I said, this bike looks really good to me. It's not moving around as much as I remembered seeing it move around last year. And I know some of that is going to be the idiosyncrasies between riders. Loris is a very tall guy, and they were trying to work on some things with him, obviously. But the advancement of this bike, maybe with having more Ducati Corsa guys here helping, is a good thing as well. Now, Hector Barbera and Jake Lewis locked in this battle for 5th. Looking at lap times from these guys, they've both been in the 10s. 2:10.1 for Barbera. I think yesterday he dipped into the high 9s, but look just behind these guys, Greg. A guy that we showed in our pre-race, Richie Escalante. He's only 2.2 behind him. You're going to get a shot of him right there. This is a big change for Richie. He's not as far back. He's chipping away just like we thought he needed to do, and it's a good run for him as he's keeping these 2 guys in sight still.
So in talking with Hector Barbera on that Tytler's Cycle Racing BMW, Hector told me that obviously they've only had very limited time testing in the offseason. The program was put together, and it's all about creating a feeling of being one with the motorcycle. At the moment, he feels very disconnected from the motorcycle. It's doing things that he can't anticipate. There are some modifications on that bike. We talked about him being on the Shivey Racing BMW last year, turning off all the electronics as much as possibly they can. But he told me that all the electronics are on, even though he has his thumb brake, which he used as traction control last year. Hector Barbera doing a great job getting a feel for this motorcycle handle.
And Greg, talking to Dave Weaver, who's spearheading the Tytler Cycle campaign, Hector Barbera said they were really conservative with changes for Hector's bike. It's not worth a big risk, especially considering where they are in their development, being such a young program and together as a team. And talking to Hector, he really felt like he couldn't compete yesterday. He said there wasn't enough stability in the corners, so they're chipping away at changes slowly but surely. Today, he said during the race, if he feels comfortable to push, he would like to have tried to stay with Peterson. He just wants to finish as well as he can.
Well, they may have been conservative with Hector Barbera's bike. For Richie Escalante, who we just saw in the picture, they were anything but. They had gone the wrong way with a ride height adjustment. They had gone lower for race number 1. They said that was completely wrong, so they've raised the bike back up, but they also went to a harder front tire. When the tire came off of that bike at the end of the race yesterday, the team told me they had never seen anything quite like it. It was nowhere close. They couldn't believe that Richie was able to make it to the end of the race. But then they also made a change to the launch control for Richie. He had a bad start yesterday yesterday. That put him behind the pack, where he rode by himself really for the entirety of race 1, which didn't allow him to learn anything as he tries to get to grips with this Superbike platform. So today he got that better start. You see him with the pack, and you can watch that development continue.
Yeah, and for Jake Lewis, who's teammates to Richie Escalante on the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki, he's able to get by Hector Barbera for 5th spot. But here comes Richie Escalante, and keep in mind, Jason, it was 40 seconds the gap between first and Escalante yesterday. Right now they're sitting at about 15 seconds, so massive improvement. But for Escalante, he really wants to try to latch onto the back of these two so he can continue his learning curve.
Well, last lap by Greg, of the 3, he was obviously the quickest guy. He is in the 2:11.3, where Barbera was at a 2:12.1. Jake was right in the middle of that, so you can see he is now really catching these guys even more so this lap. So the learning for Escalante just continues to happen, and it's going to be good for him to be able to engage with a couple of guys that are seasoned like Lewis and Hector Barbera on these bikes, on big bikes. As you can see, one of our tailing, oh, is that Barbera? Just makes a mistake there, but there was somebody else. I think they were coming up on a back marker as well, Greg.
Yeah, so it looks like a bit of a mistake.
Yep.
And so now that puts those 2 Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzukis in 5th and 6th place as Petrucci continues to lead the way. He's 3 seconds out ahead of Matthew Scholtz, who's got 1.8 over Gagne. And then just another 1.5 seconds back is Cameron Peterson. So you have Lewis and Escalante with Hector Barbera sliding to 7th.
I'm wondering what happened there. Like, maybe get a false neutral going into the last corner. Let's have a look here. Yep, it looks like it's a false neutral. So that's what hurt Hector Barbera as he goes into that last corner, and you can see him with a little shake of his head. And that allowed Escalante through. So now we're going to see if Escalante can catch up to his teammate. Right now, this guy came across the line last lap, 2:09.4. He did get down to a 2:09.1, but he did 2:09.4 the last time through to open up a 3-second margin over Matthew Scholtz. So it is just domination right now by Danilo Petrucci as he continues to just lap around the Circuit of Americas.
And what a way to maximize your opportunity. As he's new to MotoAmerica is Petrucci. He comes to a racetrack he's very familiar with. He also comes loaded to bear with Ducati Corsa people in the MotoGP side. Tons of friends and fans cheering him on. It's going to be a different story when we get to Road Atlanta in 2 weeks for Petrucci, as he's never been there before. The team has, so there's be some information, some data and starting points when it comes to gearing. But Petrucci's looking at it as he's only had experience in the United States on Circuit of the Americas, as well as WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. So Jay, when you have these opportunities and you make the most out of it, if he can walk away with 50 points in hand, it's going to be a great opener to his MotoAmerica Medallia Superbike career.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than this for him. As we go back again. Jake Lewis now has all kinds of trouble because he's got Escalante right behind him. So what a big switch this has been overnight, as Escalante is going to take a shot at Lewis as they go into that last corner, and the 54 has moved himself up into that top 5. Jake's trying to get the drive. A little bit of a size advantage over between these two guys for Escalante, so he's able to accelerate away, and he's going to get up into the turn 1 area and hold Lewis at bay. You can see Hector Barbera still trying to make up for that time he lost on the last lap.
The Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki program. These are GSXR 1000s. This is the premier Suzuki program in the United States. And these two riders continuing, as you know, we talked about this, Jason, that Richie Escalante is really, if you look across the field, our top pure rookie front runner. And we say that because, say, a rider like PJ Jacobsen, who had an early exit after his engine expired, he's got plenty of experience World Superbike racing.
Yeah, that's right.
So Escalante, this is his first go at it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like almost saying that Petrucci's a rookie in our series, which he's anything but, obviously. And but this guy has only ridden 1,000, literally a handful of times. So the fact that he's doing as nice a job as he's doing, and this could be a difference between that front tire change, obviously made a big difference. The Vision Wheel team saw some things last night that they really wanted to change. They went a completely different direction for him, and you can see how much that's paying off. And that's what happens when you have an experienced team.
And we know that Escalante talked quite a bit yesterday about changing his riding style. He still feels like he's riding it like a 600. Of course, he's the 2020 Supersport champ here in the Auto Parts for Less MotoAmerica Superbike Championship in our Supersport class. So for Escalante, he continues to learn a lot. As for Hector Barbera, on the 80 machine. And speaking with him, I asked him if there's testing between now and our race at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta coming up. And he said, you know what? After what we've seen, we definitely know we have to do it. They don't know where they're going to go yet, but they figured out that somewhere in the next 10 days, they're going to get on the racetrack and they're going to start testing those BMWs even further. As for this rider, Danilo Petrucci on the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York Panigale V4. Congratulations all around yesterday from some of the top MotoGP racers in the world. And of course, he's ridden for a variety of teams.
Absolutely.
Over the course of
everybody knows
years.
Him. Yep, everybody that's here knows him.
It was a popular victory, and for him to do it again, Jay, and really you look at it with just a lap and a half to go, what Petrucci's been able to do, you know, 3 laps ago, do a 2:09.1. Now he's settled into the 2:10s. It's his first 2:10 that I've seen in quite a while, where Matthew Scholtz has had a progressive kind of a slowing. He 2:09.2, but then a couple laps ago was 2:09.8 last time by. As you can see from the progression on the screen, that 2:10.026.
It's going to be a good weekend for him, though, Greg. Getting a big points haul out of here. You can see Gagne is doing everything he can to catch back up. And I think that the real question heading to Road Atlanta for me, we haven't seen Jake really be this far back at all in the last year, obviously. We saw some weather condition races at Barber.
Jake Gagne we're talking about.
Jake Gagne, I'm sorry. We saw him tip off at Brainerd. So we've seen a little bit of adversity, but with him still running on the track, we haven't really seen anybody beat him straight up in the dry or in a big fight like this. So for Matthew Scholtz, this is actually a good moving point for him moving forward. If he can actually hold Gagne off here. And look, Greg, we got a big, long season ahead of us, but this guy just needs to get some points in the bank and then start getting rolling again, and that's what Jake Gagne will do with his team.
17 wins last season, 16 of those were in a row. Start of this season doesn't look like he's going to have that, as Petrucci out front is putting his name in the record books immediately. Jay, before we started race number 1 yesterday, we only had 3 active Superbike race winners. And with this rider and his victory yesterday, it's 4. The white flag is flying. We're on the last lap. And Danilo Petrucci from Italy is leading us. And that gap is 5 seconds. So it's a matter of navigating the 20 turns here at Circuit of the Americas for him. And then that gap back from Scholtz to Jake Gagne, sitting at 1.5. Cameron Peterson still hanging back there. That's going to be a big improvement in terms of finishing time. Escalante now 20 seconds back from this rider, cutting his deficit in half. So Jay, looking forward, looking at Petrucci, him talking about his fitness level, his injuries that he's still nursing, the chatter that he's trying to figure out on this Panigale. What are you thinking for the rest of this MotoAmerica season?
Well, obviously shots are fired now. This team has been in our paddock, and they've done a really good job of making some big advancements, haven't they, during the winter here, as Petrucci goes underneath Jeff Burke. They've made some nice advancements. This is going to be a big boost for this team. As Petrucci gets healthy and he starts to understand our racetracks a little bit, you know, he's going to be a major problem for these guys. And I don't think anybody expected any less coming into the season.
And I'm assured that from a Ducati Corsa standpoint, the bits and pieces of development as they learn more about these Dunlop tires will continue to flow in during the course of the season. So we can only expect the innovation for this motorcycle and, of course, the speed of this motorcycle to get better and better during the course of the season. Don't sound the alarm bells just yet. All things have aligned for the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York team, but we do know that Danilo Petrucci is going to be one tough customer this entire 20 race season.
Yeah, but this team had some hard times last year. They struggled with things. They had a lot of little small disappointments and big disappointments, and you know, it's great to see a new team win. It's great to see another rider in our series, especially at the caliber of Petrucci. So congrats to this team and the rider. Great weekend.
A shot in the arm for a rider who retired just a few months ago, back on track, and he comes to the checkered flag and takes his 2nd victory in a row. So 2 for 2 for Petrucci and the Warhorse HSBK Racing team. Teammates will come across the line. It'll be Gagne who will take 3rd place over Cameron Peterson by 1/10 of a second. So it's Petrucci, Scholtz, Gagne, Peterson as we await the arrival of Richie Escalante and the rest of the field. Congratulations by the visiting MotoGP paddock. As we take a look at his race pace, Jason, and that's what we talked about. It's the ability to dig deep. He did it early yesterday to make up a gap, and then once he got out front for the final time, it was digging deep to try to break away from Matthew Scholtz, and that's exactly what happened. What racecraft, Jason. We saw literally a rider learn from one lap where his competitor's strengths and weakness were, and he capitalized on it and was able to turn that into a race victory.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to step away from Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas, but you'll want to stay with us because when we return, we're going to get you a conversation with Petrucci, Scholtz, and Gagne and found out how that race was. Can't wait to hear what Petrucci said about racing with Matthew Scholtz. Pretty hectic race from the beginning to about midway point, but for Jake Gagne, I think the importance is getting that 16 points in the bank. You can see that Petrucci gets a 5.1 second race margin. Gagne just barely over Cam Peterson. We're gonna be talking about that one in the trailer. Congratulations though to Richie Escalante. Cutting that deficit in half, Jason, I think is a big deal.
That's a big deal, yeah. Jake Lewis there with Barber and as you say, Hayden Gillum, who we saw earlier on, Travis Wyman. But yeah, you know, for Escalante, that's a big victory today, 20 seconds. And it'd be interesting to see what race pace was as far as total time yesterday compared to today. But that's what these teams will do. They'll go back and they'll analyze that stuff and they'll see really how much closer he got.
Petrucci in Parc Ferme winner's circle. Let's get it right down to Hannah, who's in winner's circle.
Greg, Jason, when talking to Danilo at the beginning of the weekend, he said he's never had to do 2 races in a race weekend. Now he's done not only that, but won both of them. Congratulations at being exchanged between him and Jake Gagne. Danilo, yesterday you ran kind of a lonely race. Today you had the opportunity to go back and forth with Matthew Scholtz. Tell us about your battle for the victory.
Yeah, yesterday I suffered a lot with the rear tire. Today I tried to manage, but Matthew was so strong on braking, and yeah, I maybe have the bike that is a little bit faster on the straight, maybe slower into the corner. We have to fix a bit the setup, but then I try to push and use all my energy till the end to make the gap, and it works. Just want to like to thank all my team and all the MotoGP paddock people, all my friends that I met these days. It has been really 2 wonderful days.
Danilo Petrucci does the double. Let's get over to Jamie with our second place finisher.
And that's Matthew Scholtz, who finished second for the 2nd race in a row now. That was a great fight at the beginning. You had more aggression than what we've seen from you in the past, but then you lost it. What were the challenges?
Yeah, I knew that Danilo had a little bit of top speed on us, so I was just trying to do everything to kind of cut him off before the straights and just try to see if I could pull a big enough gap through the corners. And, you know, maybe I kind of roasted the tire on the edge, just fighting with him a little bit too much, but it was awesome fun. I'm just really happy to be up here again and give the Westby Racing team another podium. If you would have told me on Friday they would have got 2 second places, I would have been over the moon, because COTA is usually a track that I've always struggled at. So yeah, now I'm going to go to the other tracks that kind of suit the Yamaha bike a little bit better, a little bit more on the edge of the tire, and tracks that kind of suit me. And yeah, hopefully we'll try to beat him there. But well done, he's an amazing rider. Well done to Jake. He's up there. I mean, he missed Q2 warm-up, so he didn't get as much track time, and I know that these guys are going to come out stronger at the next race.
That's a great sign of things to come, Hannah.
Jamie, some tough luck throughout the weekend for Jake Gagne, but Jake, a 3rd place finish today. Are you feeling a little bit of sense of vindication for yourself and for the team with this podium finish?
Yeah, I'm glad we got it up on the box today. You know, it's been a really tough weekend. We haven't had a whole lot of laps, you know, and with a bunch of bike changes and kind of so it was a weird one today. You know, I was a little in unknown territory. I was struggling with a couple things, and but hey, that's how it goes. I'm just glad we recovered from this weekend. We could put it on the box, get a couple points. Hats off to Danilo and Matt, man. These guys rode awesome all weekend, and yeah, we got a lot of racing to go this year, so I'm looking forward to the rest of the year getting going.
Jake Gagne rounding out.
Yamaha, Yamalube, Yamaha Financial Services, Arai Helmets, Alpine Stars, everyone watching at home. Thank you.
Jake Gagne rounding out your Medallia Superbike podium, guys.
Well, you had to get that in. I mean, it's been a little while since he was on the box, 1 race.
Yeah, absolutely. And now he's got a little extra motivation, doesn't he?
We'll be back with more after this.
Medallia Superbike coverage has been sponsored by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. Autopartsforless.com. Why pay more when you can get it for less? And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Back here at Circuit of the America and our Geico save of the day. Really, it's the save of the weekend, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. This poor team, on Gagne's side of it anyways, they just had one, Greg, because he only rode a little bit Friday, didn't get to do anything really yesterday. Bike broke, and then today he's able to come back swinging, get a third place finish. Although, did you see how close Cam was to him at the end? It was really, really close there for Gagne to almost not get on the podium as Peterson kind of just tagged onto the back of him there, didn't he, in the latter half of that race?
He certainly did. So here's your championship point standings. You can see Petrucci sitting on 50 points. Scholtz, with his pair of second place finishes, there's 5 points difference, is back 10. And then you have Cameron Peterson. So what is so weird to see is your number 1 plate down there in 7th spot. But we do have 18 races of the Medallia Superbike class here in the Auto Parts for Less MotoAmerica Superbike Championship remaining. We certainly hope you enjoyed this one, and you're going to make sure to join us April 22nd through the 24th from Road Atlanta, Brazelton, Georgia. For Jason, Hannah, Jamie, I'm Greg. We'll see you soon.